Welcome to Wesley Impact. I'm Keith Garner. Can someone be too old to volunteer their time to help others? Thank you for joining us. I'd like to spend some time on this final Sunday before Christmas looking at that question. Do we ever get so old that we can't help others? Or so old that we shouldn't stop looking for opportunities to share what we have with others with whom we come into contact? Today we look at part 2 of Phil Mulray's story. Phil is a resident at Wesley Taylor Village who has a lifelong association with Wesley Mission, going back to attending Sunday school here as a child. Now retired, he's rekindled his dream to paint and has painted a portrait of a former Prime Minister of Australia. Now we see that portrait turned out and how it came about in just a few moments. Being the final Sunday of the year before Christmas, I'd like to think in the Advent season, particularly in something that's important, turning to the first chapter in the New Testament for our thoughts. The story of Jesus' birth is told from the vantage of Joseph. The visit of the angel to him causes him to rethink his attitude to Mary and the news that she is to give birth to a child. I'll also speak with Ron Page, a face you might recognise as familiar on our volunteers video on this programme. At 91, Ron is an active member of the Wesley Taylor Village community, one of our retirement villages, and Ron is certainly at the centre of so many of the social activities there. In addition to serving in all Sunday services, Ron is the new resident liaison officer and helps out in the library in coordinating social activities, and I'm told he's always has time for a cup of tea and a chat with anyone at the drop of a hat. We'll speak with Ron a little later. We'll then be joined by Deb Ezzy-Walton, Craig Gower and the Wesley Impact Band to sing a Christmas song, New Miracle. Now, I mentioned that we'll look at the second video in a 2-part series about Phil Mulray. Phil has had a long association with Wesley Mission, going back to his younger days as a child and today as a resident at Wesley Taylor Village. He's rekindled his dream to pick up the paintbrush and paint, and showing we're never too old to pursue our dreams. This is the second part of Phil's story.
That was a fiasco, the first sitting, knowing I could do better. Everybody was so supportive. The mission, Tony, my wife. We had a couple of months before the next sitting, and Stephanie Brown, the artist, had organised a 10-week painting portraiture in oils. So I joined that class, and that helped build my confidence and ability. Approaching the second sitting, which we had in this very same room, I was somewhat anxious to get on with it. It was much cooler, and Tony, whereas the first one he had been aghast, this time he was conciliatory, and I was reasonably happy with it and knew I had the framework to start transposing with paint onto canvas. So with all this months of travail, terror, panic, and painting, the end picture has been achieved. But the culmination, the climax, was to see Tony Abbott's response since the first 2 early live sittings. We went into his electoral office in Manly and propped it up on a bench, and he was one side of it, I was on the other, holding it up, and uncovered it for his inspection. Now, he's a very serious and considered man, and just earnestly studied it and stepped across in front of the picture and shook my hand and congratulated me.
There are a couple of portraits later that they've done over the years.
And I reckon that's by far the best. Really? Yeah. It was a genuine, personal, sincere comment, and it gave me chills up and down my spine, and I was thrilled to have it from him personally, a man of his stature. It was great moment, great feeling. It had been about 2 weeks since we'd seen Tony to their first day for deliveries. We arrived at 8 o'clock in the morning, or just after 8, but it was all over in minutes, and we had to just sign it in, and now up to the gallery, so we'll know soon enough if it's been rejected. This whole exercise, it's touched so many lives. It's been exciting, exhausting, somewhat stressful, but my wife thought it had been a great stimulus, and glad to see me so motivated and activated. To have another subject portrait in 12 months' time might be a good discipline. I don't know, I'm just cruising.
For Sarah, Christmas morning will be like every other morning. Her family does not have enough money for the basics, such as food and electricity. Wesley Mission offers much needed support to help families like Sarah's, but without your help, we cannot help them. Your donation will provide much needed support and joy this Christmas. Please donate today.
So please don't hesitate to be in touch if you'd like more information about all that we do at Wesley Mission, or be a part of our work with the vulnerable and those in need at Christmas, or watch the first part of Phil Mulray's story online. Our email address is impacttv@wesleymission.org.au and wesleymission.org.au, where all the programmes are. I mentioned earlier today that Ron Page is a resident at Taylor Village and someone who's very much at the centre of many of the activities there. I'm pleased to welcome Ron onto the programme. Good to have you, Ron.
Thank you.
Ron, regular viewers of Wesley Impact will recognise your face from the video and promotional work that we do. And what is a typical day for Ron Page at Taylor Village? Are there things you do on a daily basis?
Well, I usually try and meet any newcomers to the village and try and make them feel at home and feel that they're cared for.
And I know, do you do the post as well?
Yes, I do distribute the mail because getting letters is a very important part of life.
Yes, it is. My mother always says to me, it's no good just sending emails. I want a letter and have it written out. And that's so important. Now, you're the new resident liaison officer. What does that entail?
Well, that entails being able to make people feel at home at Wesley Taylor, and also trying to meet any needs that they have. In other words, when they first come to Taylor, they're coming to a new experience in life, and they need to make me feel that they are welcome, and that life doesn't end here, but just begins.
And do you think that people have a different... Some are more concerned when they first come in?
Well, I think they are, because they're not quite sure what to expect. Once they had their own home, their own family, now they're cared for rather than caring.
Why do you do what you do? I mean, what motivates you?
Well, I feel that I need something to keep me occupied, and I need also something that makes a positive contribution to my life. And it is an extension, in a way, of what I've always been doing in the ministry, in helping people and trying to care for them and making life worthwhile.
And Ron, I know that you're involved in the weekly services at the Taylor at the village, but you also lead a Bible study there, don't you?
That's right.
And what sort of Bible study is that?
Well, we use a book called Every Day or with Jesus, and we try to apply the Christian principles to daily life. In other words, we not only learn about the Bible, but we learn to care for people as being a principal part of our Christian living.
And really, volunteering is an important part of life, isn't it, for people?
Ideas, it is indeed.
Do you try and draw people out to do more and engage themselves more, if possible?
Well, I think everyone can do something. Life doesn't end at the entrance to Wesley Taylor Village, but rather by giving of ourselves, we're likely to extend our life.
And look, Ron, you've only recently had a pacemaker fitted. You're ready for the next 10 years now. I know you're really feeling energetic in that sense, and that's really good. Let me just ask you then, is part of your task also to help, I don't want to call it solve problems, but help people when there's things happen within the village?
I think to try and direct them to where they might find the greatest help.
Yes.
Whether it is a very simple problem like making their bed regularly, or whether it's a more complex problem as to where they can get more money or help in that way.
If you can help people get more money, you'll have lots of people coming to see you, I'm sure. Let me just, do you find your life is satisfied?
I think it is. I think it is, and because it's satisfied, then I feel that I'm able to live longer. Because I think having an aim and purpose in life, that extends one's life.
I think that's one of the most memorable parts of that volunteer DVD, when you said that activity leads to longevity. I think that's a lovely kind of concept in life. And you're a good age now and you're still at it, and that's so very important. How important is the Christian faith to you?
Very important, because the Christian faith gives us a starting point in life, not an ending point. We're always learning, we're always growing, and I think growing in faith is so important. We haven't arrived, but we're always arriving.
Ron, thank you very much for joining us and sharing something of that faith journey with us. Just stay around, if you would, for the rest of the show, and I'll come back and ask you a question at the end. Please welcome now Deb Ezzy-Walton, Craig Gower and the Wesley Impact Band with New Miracle.
I have heard a manger I chose to volunteer at Wesley Mission because I'm passionate about justice.
I chose to volunteer with Wesley Mission because I've always wanted to work with people who have a disability.
You meet friendly people. They're all people who are self-motivated and energetic.
It not only gives me a purpose, keeps me active, and activity leads to longevity.
Wesley Mission currently provide over 130 individual services with over 2,000 employees, supported by over 3,000 volunteers to assist over 21,000 families and individuals each year. Whew, that's a lot of numbers. So as you can imagine, we are always looking for more volunteers to help. So please, volunteer today. Visit our website, wesleymission.org.au. You will not only be meeting new and interesting people, but you will be doing all the good you can, because every life matters.
So we light that fourth candle, just the King in the centre, on this final Sunday before Christmas, the last Sunday of Advent. And when Joseph learns of Mary's forthcoming child, he obeyed the message of the messenger from God, the angel. It's so easy to underestimate the role and place of Joseph in the infancy stories, how important he is. He was so significant in the nativity stories and his relationship with Mary and what he had to offer. Remember the place he must have had in the life of Jesus as he grew as a child into a young person. I just remind you that in Luke 4, when we read about how Jesus went back to Nazareth, and there is all the kerfuffle as Jesus reads in the synagogue there, the passage from Isaiah 61, and the questions about what he did, they say, "Isn't this Joseph's son?" He was known as Joseph's son. Joseph must have had such an influence upon Jesus' life. Let me read to you from Matthew chapter 1, verses 18 through to 21. This is how the birth of Jesus, the Messiah, came about. His mother Mary was pledged to be married to Joseph, but before they came together, she was found to be pregnant through the Holy Spirit. Because Joseph, her husband, was faithful to the law and yet didn't want to expose her publicly to disgrace, he had in mind to divorce her quietly. But after he considered this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, "Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will give birth to a son, and you're to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins." This early scene in the drama of the gospel is so significant. You see, Joseph is much more than just a nice guy. He displays qualities that I want to draw your attention to. Two in particular that are going to be important at the very beginning of the ministry of Jesus and throughout what must have been true for Joseph and many other of the earlier followers of Jesus. Firstly, faithfulness. It's there in so much of the teaching of Jesus. And it's great to think that Jesus' earthly father displayed something of that faithfulness. Faithfulness to his wife. Faithfulness to what he was called to do. And faithfulness in being an example in the home. From what we know, Joseph probably died early in the life of him, so that in fact, when it came to Jesus' ministry beginning, it appears to be only Mary still alive. He would have a special responsibility then, as the eldest boy in any family would, to look after his mother. So faithfulness would be so significant, it would be so important. And as far as Joseph is concerned, like the men of the day, they had a responsibility in their home. I remember going to Nazareth, underneath the church there. It's not a small town anymore. Even when I went, there was something like 70,000 people that lived there, mainly Palestinians and mainly people living in a teeming, in fact, the city's bigger than that now. And the church there is a church that has underneath a place that is meant to replicate the kind of workshop that Joseph would work in. But there is a famous picture of Jesus with his arms outstretched behind Joseph at work. It's a shadow of Joseph working on the carpenter's bench. So very, very important. He was faithful. But he also had a willingness to rise above public opinion. Now, I think this aspect is something that we would be very unwise to miss. The story that the nativity stories are trying to tell us is this would be a disgraceful person, a disgraceful position to find yourself in. To find, in fact, that your wife is to have a child and you're not married and all that went with it. It would be difficult for some today, but certainly in the time of Jesus, it would be very, very difficult. And so for Joseph, it would be an enormous challenge. But he rises above all that. He doesn't want to put away Mary. He doesn't want to divorce her. He doesn't want to do something that would have any element of public disgrace at all. So he was unafraid, if you like, of what people might say. He was going to rise above what public opinion might have easily led people to consider and to conclude and to think. He was rising above all that to something better. Joseph, perhaps, is not considered in the story of the Nativity anything like as much as he should. When it comes to the children's Nativity, Joseph is not the leading actor, it's Mary. It's Mary and, of course, a child that comes. And he's there, stood, very few words very often. It's all the other people who come looking. There are wise men, there are shepherds, there is the knocking on the door. Sometimes he's the one that's allowed to ask the innkeeper if there's any room in the inn. But the truth is, Joseph has a critically important part to play, and one that teaches us a great deal that I think can be meaningful in this Advent and the upcoming Christmas season. We can learn a great deal from him. So Joseph is there. Joseph accepts Jesus as his son. And we have that most amazing declaration at the end of this passage that is there for all to hear. She will give birth to a son, and you're to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins. That's the nature of the gift of Jesus Christ.
If you would like to contact Keith and find out more about today's program, write to us at Wesley Mission, Post Office Box A5555, Sydney South 1235. Or you can send an email to impacttv@wesleymission.org.au. On our website, you can catch up on past episodes of Wesley Impact, find out more about our work, read online magazines and articles, and connect with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. You can also connect to Keith's blog and stay up to date on all of the latest news and information from Wesley Mission. wesleymission.org.au.
Thank you for joining us today. And please don't hesitate to contact us if you've got any questions about the Christian faith, or we can be of any help to you in any way. The email address is impacttv@wesleymission.org, or visit our website at Wesley Mission. You can also find us on social media, and our address and the handles are on the screen now. Now, before we finish up today, Ron, I'd like to ask the question I started with at the beginning of the programme. Do you think somebody can be too old to be a volunteer?
Oh, not at all. I'm 91, my wife's 93, and we feel today that we're living in God's time, not our own, and the future is unending.
Look, you must be one of the oldest people we've had on the programme, but certainly vibrant in faith, and that's so very, very important. Thank you, viewers, for tuning in today. I hope you're going to be with us next week, which, of course, is such a momentous day, Christmas Day, when we celebrate Hark the Herald Angels Sing, Glory to the Newborn King. We've something a little different planned this year, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you. Thank you, and God bless you.
Wesley Mission has more than 3,000 volunteers who help us provide our care and services. To find out more, visit wesleymission.org.au.